Please now welcome our final speaker for the afternoon, Levi Alderson, and his thesis, Society's Prison: How to Reform California's Homeless Policy.
A few weeks ago, I was driving through Los Angeles. I noticed a small amount of smoke coming up from the side of the freeway. I assumed it was a car having engine trouble. But then, as I emerged from under a bridge, I saw what it was. The smoke was not coming from a car. The smoke was coming from a grill. This grill was much more worrying than someone waiting for a tow truck. Here at this grill, a mother was cooking for two little children sitting next to a tent a few yards from the grill. This homeless family needed help. People assume that they could easily get help as long as they're not substance abusers. However, the current system is costly and ineffective. The housing takes a long time to build, and options for other needs are not available until already housed. This current system is called Housing First. It provides housing with no attachments. You do not need to go to drug or alcohol rehab. You do not need to have a stable mind. You do not need to look for a job or provide any income. Essentially, taxpayers are providing permanent housing. On top of this, the housing being built is super expensive. A group of houses being built in LA costs $837,000 each. Since 2016, only 1,000 houses have been built for an estimated 55,000 homeless people. Another reason it is failing is because for every 10 houses built, only one person gets housed. According to Judge Glock, an economics professor at West Virginia University. This is because the programs attract people who have smaller houses or are homeless from other cities. Housing First has its advantages, but is ultimately failing. It is not providing accessible housing, and it is affecting the majority of taxpayers more than the people that need help. To more effectively reduce homelessness, we need to reduce housing and construction regulations in order to provide cheap apartment buildings. Housing First says the problem is that there's not enough housing. It assumes that an increase in housing will result in a decrease in homelessness. However, the problem is often much deeper. 75% of homelessness can be traced back to a job loss or a family splitting apart. With these cheap apartments, until stability is regained, there would be quick, accessible housing, rather than housing that takes a long time to build and ties them down in an area. This satisfies Housing First's goal of providing stability, but does it at a much lower cost, and it is easier to use short-term until someone can return to their old life. Housing in California is very expensive. It causes 50% of homelessness, according to the Downtown Streets team. If we can reduce this regulation, then we could serve 80,000 people and make it easier for them to put their lives back together. We have seen systems like this in America's past. From the 1880s to the beginning of World War II, in New York, there were places where the homeless would stay for a nickel a night. This translates to $1.50 today. The conditions here were very poor. You would be in a room with several other people, and the cleanliness was bad. But it's better than sleeping in a gutter. A journalist in 1895 went and stayed at one of these lodges. He recalls talking to some of the men there and how they were very content to be there. They were even excited to get breakfast in the morning if they did a small amount of manual labor, such as splitting wood. Even if we cannot make it as inexpensive as it was in the past, a homeless person makes $15 an hour on average from begging. It is not rare for them to receive over $100 in one day. These apartments could be much more expensive than the bare minimum, but the residents would still have money to spend on other necessities. Getting back on your feet is hard, especially when a common attitude towards homelessness is just get a job. Some organizations help with this, but they do not have enough funding and resources. It is so hard to help everyone who needs it when the population is so dense in large cities. This is why cheap housing would be beneficial. It would be easier for someone to pay rent, and it would be quick stability. The stay there would not have to be long. It would be a staging area for someone to put their life back together. An area for stability and rest before they can find another job and another home. Asking for help can be humiliating. Asking for something as large as a house is even more humiliating, especially when the majority of people can provide it on their own. This is why having them pay for their own housing would be better. It would be a great morale boost to those struggling on the streets. The natural concern is that these apartments would be dangerous to its inhabitants and not fit for human living. However, if these are not run by the government, but instead are private businesses, multiple can arise. The competition will make these apartments be as safe as possible while maintaining that low price. Homelessness is a huge problem in America. We need to elect people who are going to reduce regulation. We need to stop letting our money be wasted. We need to stop hoping the old system miraculously begins to work. We need to free the homeless from our streets and give them accessible and affordable housing. Thank you.